the man who crowned himself emperor. Once upon a time, on a small island in the blue Mediterranean Sea, Corsica, in 1769, a boy was born who would shake the thrones of Europe. His name, Napoleon Bonaparte. He wasn't born into royalty. Oh no, Napoleon was the son of a simple lawyer. But from a young age, he had the fire of ambition burning in his chest. When he was just 9 years old, his father managed to secure him a scholarship to study in France. Imagine it, a shy island boy, sent far from home, surrounded by children who mocked his Corsican accent and called him a foreigner. But while others played, Napoleon dreamed of glory. He devoured books on history and war, memorized the tactics of great generals, and dreamed of commanding armies. At 16, he graduated from a French military academy, short, thin, and sharp eyed, and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the artillery. That was the moment his destiny took shape. The world around him was changing fast. In 1789, the French Revolution erupted. Kings and queens fell, the old order crumbled, and chaos ruled the streets. To many, it was a time of fear, but to Napoleon, it was a time of opportunity. He joined the Revolutionary Army. He rose through the army like a cannonball, bold, fearless, and brilliant. He was the kind of general soldiers would follow through storms and fire. And soon, he caught everyone's attention. His intelligence was unmatched, his courage extraordinary. At Talon, he drove the British from a captured port and saved the revolution. Overnight, the unknown Corsican became a national hero. He rose through the ranks like lightning, not because of birth, but because of brilliance. By the age of 24, he commanded an entire army in Italy, moving his troops like pieces on a chessboard. Napoleon crushed enemies in Italy, outsmarting armies twice his size. His strategy was genius, his confidence unstoppable. And there, on the hills and valleys of northern Italy, Napoleon's legend was born. He told his men, "Soldiers, you are naked and hungry, but the world shall be yours." And somehow they believed him. He won battle after battle, and soon the whole of Europe was whispering his name, Napoleon, Napoleon. By 1799, France was exhausted. The revolution had eaten its own children. The government was weak, and the people longed for stability. Napoleon saw his moment. One cold November morning, he stormed into the chambers of power, scattered the politicians, and took control. No blood, no battle, just sheer strategy and brilliance. France had a new leader. 5 years later, in 1804, something unbelievable happened. In a glittering and grand ceremony at Notre Dame Cathedral, before nobles, priests, and the Pope himself, Napoleon did the unthinkable. He took the crown from the Pope's hands and placed it on his own head. He crowned himself Emperor of France. The world gasped. A commoner had made himself a king. And oh, how he ruled. Under his rule, France became the heartbeat of Europe. He built schools, roads, a fair legal system, the Napoleonic Code, and for a time it seemed like he could do no wrong. His empire stretched from Spain to Poland. His enemies trembled at the sound of his drums, his armies unbeaten for years. But glory is a double edged sword. As the saying goes, the higher you rise, the thinner the air. Ambition and glory became his downfall. In 1812, Napoleon invaded Russia, chasing a glory that never came. And that was his biggest mistake. The Russian winter struck with icy fury, snow, starvation, death. The once mighty Grand Army of 600,000 men was reduced to a ghastly few. Barely 100,000 made it home. The world turned on him. One by one, his allies betrayed him and his enemies closed in. Europe united against him. In 1814, his empire collapsed. The emperor who once ruled Europe was forced to abdicate and sent to exile on the tiny island of Elba. But the story didn't end there. Yet, even in exile, Napoleon could not rest. In March 1815, like a storm returning to the sea, like a phoenix, he escaped, landed in France, and faced the army sent to arrest him. When he landed, soldiers sent to arrest him stood before him, guns ready. He stepped forward and said, "If you want to kill your emperor, here I am." The soldiers lowered their weapons and cried, "Vive l'empereur," meaning, "Long live the emperor." And just like that, he was back. For 100 days, France was his again, but fate was waiting at a place called Waterloo. The moment he set foot into France, the European powers, Britain, Prussia, Austria, and Russia, were terrified. They had just defeated him, and suddenly here he was again. The crowned heads of Europe trembled once more. They declared him an outlaw, a menace to peace, and so the drums of war beat again. Napoleon struck first, marching into Belgium to face the British and the Prussians. But there at Waterloo, his dreams were crushed beneath the British and Prussian fire. He was sent far away to St. Helena, a lonely rock in the Atlantic. There, surrounded by endless waves, he spent his final days, remembering the cheers, the battles, and the glory that once was. On May 5th, 1821, Napoleon Bonaparte, the boy from Corsica who crowned himself emperor, took his last breath. And even today, the world remembers Napoleon Bonaparte. His story never died because some men rule for a moment, but others, like Napoleon, rule forever in memory. And so, history still whispers his name, sometimes softly, and sometimes it roars. Napoleon Bonaparte.